Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So, day 4 of the Cheltenham Festival, the final thoughts Ante-Post wise for the Cheltenham Festival, and we'll look through day 4's racing, starting off in the Triumph Hurdle, where I think the horse to beat is East India Dock. Really do. I think that form is strong. I think the performances have been very, very impressive from East India Dock. I wonder whether the Gredleys actually got it wrong. They talked up Lavender Hill Mob. I wonder whether they got it wrong and they actually meant East India Dock and got a better price because of that. You know, they kept talking up Lavender Hill Mob, saying that he's the one that's going to take all of the beating in a Triumph Hurdle. This was the one they actually meant. 3 wins from 3 over hurdles. A very impressive win at Cheltenham on the old course. A very impressive win on the new course. So it doesn't matter which course. East India Dock can win on both. This is the new course, obviously, for the Triumph. There's no real negatives about the horse. The trip will be fine. From his flat days, 1.5 miles, just about got 1.6 miles. Even ran over 2 mile. Will stay further. Will be strong at the finish. I've got no negatives about this horse, and I actually think he's going to demonstrate that he's a very good hurdler, and I think he's clear of these, to be honest, at this stage in their careers. East India Dock. He is priced accordingly. He is the favourite. 2-1 favourite. I think that's about right. He's 2-1 joint favourites with Lolamba. In my opinion, if we switch the trainers, East India Dock was trained by Nick Anderson, or a Willie Mullins, or a Gavin Cromwell, or even a Dan Skelton. I think East India Dock is 5-4 here. A little bit harsh on James Owen, but I think he's just priced too big, purely on connections. But I think he takes all of the beating here, East India Dock. Moving on to the County Hurdle, the race I want to talk about next. There's actually 4 that I think are interesting, including a horse that I think is the most ridiculously priced of the whole Cheltenham Festival. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. But we'll start off talking about Cargès. Now, I highlighted Cargès for this race. I said straight away, once I'd seen the new handicap mark of Take No Chances, that they couldn't do anything with the Willie Mullins mare. She was rated 141. They had to leave her on 141 on the basis, I think they put Take No Chances up, 2-1. They put her up £1. Cargès was trying to get £1. Got beat by 3/4 of a length. Yeah, Cargès was going to get that same sort of handicap mark. They didn't move her at all. That was actually in a grade 2. She's now could return into a handicap. I think she got beat last year by the 2 best juveniles around, and 2 that I think one will win the Arkle, one would have won the Arkle. Majborough and Sergino I think will be Majborough I think will go on to be a nice horse for the Gold Cup, and Sergino I think will be one of the best 2-mile chasers around. I think at this point he'll end up being better than John Bon Sergino. Cargès got beat by both of those. Nothing else wrong in her career. This has got to be where they go with Cargès. I think she's really well handicapped. 141 isn't enough to stop her in a handicap. She's good enough to have potentially been running in that mare's hurdle, but they've got Jade de Grugy. No need to run Cargès as well. She's a little bit shorter now than what she was, obviously. They do keep backing her. Let's have a look what she is now. 8. I think we're on at 12s or 14s even. Cargès is my number 1 in this race. Second horse that I have also had a bet on that I do want to talk about is King of Kingsfield. The reason for that is last year King of Kingsfield ran in this race and went off 4-1. I don't know if it was 4-1 second favourite behind Loda Sud. Obviously it didn't work, but then after that they went straight back into grade 1 company. They clearly hold this King of Kingsfield in really high regard. Even at the beginning of the season, bumped into Brighter Days Ahead, beating Daddy Longlegs. Then went to Navan for a chase and finished second to Down Memory Lane in front of Nürburgring. That could end up being really smart form. And then last time out at Leopardstown, I feel that the horse was just used as a pacemaker for brighter days ahead. Was never getting involved there, but they knew what they were doing. They knew that this is just a speed session, like as if you were a runner. Will win the race with brighter days ahead, and King of Kingsfield, his handicap mark won't move. If you look at some of his hurdles form, you can understand why he went off 4-1 last year. Considering he went off 4-1 off a mark, what was he rated then? He was rated 140. Okay, he comes back this year off a £6 higher mark. We can still get 20s about him. 5 times the price for a £6 essential penalty. If you fancied him at 4s, you were backing him because you thought he had plenty in hand. You were backing him because you thought he was a 148, 150 horse. Well, if that was the case, you back him again now. And yeah, 20s, I actually think that's quite a nice price for him. I'm going to move on to the one that I think is the most ridiculously priced horse in this race. And that is right near the bottom. Pied Piper, Bet365 are going 66. If on the day, or if after he gets declared, you can get 40s, 50s about this horse, have a bet on Pied Piper. Unless you've got a Bet365 account, have a bet on him now at 66. The reason I say that, he has been to Cheltenham 4 times in his career. He was winning a Grade 2 juvenile hurdle. He then finished 3rd to Vauban and Fildor. In 2023, he ran in the county hurdle, this race, off a mark of 154. He finished 2nd, beaten ahead. And then last year, he ran in this race again. He finished 3rd this time, behind Absurd and L'Eau de Sud, off a mark of 156. On Friday, he gets to run off a mark of 154, so £2 lower than last year, and the same mark as when he was ahead 2nd in 2023. This is ridiculous, 66s. He only went off 12s and 14s the last 2 years. As I said, if you can get 25s, 33s, 40s, 50s, have a bet on Pied Piper. Do him each way. I think you'll get a run for your money. What other horse has form at a course in any race, could come to a race with form of 1, 3, 2, 3, be off a lower handicap mark or the same handicap mark as when running in the handicaps, and be 66-1 or 40s, 50s? If you can get that, get a bet on Pied Piper. This season, I think they've also been, plotting a return here, knowing that they've got a nice horse. They just need to get him down a couple of pounds. And to be fair to him, you'd go, yeah, but he's been around the block, hasn't he? He's only 7. He then ran on the flat. After finishing 3rd last year, he ran on the flat. He ran on the flat. He returned to Punchestown down when he fell at 4-9. And then last time out, over 2 mile 2 at Leopardstown. Yes, it was a bit disappointing, finishing 5th, but they had no interest of winning that race that day. Why would you go and win a Quinbet hurdle for €10,000 when, if you do that, you're not going to win a handicap, and he's not good enough for graded company, but he is good enough for handicap company. Instead, they've got him nicely handicapped for this race, which is worth £61,000 or £62,000. That looks a great bit of... That could look, even the 25s could look silly come the end of the race. The final horse I do want to mention, that I haven't got a bet on just yet, but I am very interested in him, is Valgrande for Dan Skelton. Now, obviously, Willie Mullins and Dan Skelton have won this, I think, 9 times in the last 10 years. Beginning of the season, very impressive. Went to a Grade 2, skipped clear of Gail Marler and Dancing in Paris. Problem is, was that form that good? That is my concern about him. He then got beat by Potter's Charm, comfortably beating Gail Marler again. The thing with Gail Marler is he has not franked that form. I mean, he's not got close himself since Gail Marler. Valgrand has then got beaten off top weight or high weights. He's dropped a little bit down from his 140 mark back down to 134. Is that enough to really get him involved in a county hurdle? I'm not so sure at this stage. I like Cargess and King of Kingsfield for different reasons. I'll probably be having an each way bet on Pied Piper. I don't often do each way bets, but I'll probably be having a bet on Pied Piper, especially if I can get 33s, 40s, 50s about Pied Piper in a few days' time. Valgrand, I'm unsure about at this stage. Moving on to the Albert Bartlett, and I mentioned this horse earlier and said that I think he wants dropping back to 2 mile, but with Willie being the trainer and Willie being, exceptional at his job, I'm going to just give him a bit of trust here. And my selection for the Albert Bartlett in a race that I don't have many strong fancies, you can see Final Demand being shortened for the 3 mile. That'd be interesting with the new line in the 2.5. Is Jasmine DeVoe. Champion bumper winner last year. They can do that. They can win a champion bumper and then step up and trip. They already have the stamina at that point to win a bumper. And it may be that he does want further. I thought his effort when beating the Enabler and Work Ahead was a good bit of form. Jumped nicely. Or didn't jump nicely, sorry. And yet still had the ability to win. They stepped him up in trip. It didn't work on his first go when 22 lengths behind the Yellow Clay, Super Sunday and Wingman. But then I thought, next time at Leopardstown, when they changed tactics, they allowed him a lot more time at his fences, or his hurdles, sorry. I thought it was a much better effort, and it was a decent performance, I thought. They'll definitely need to be closer than what they were last time to the likes of Final Demand and the Yellow Clay, but I feel that they could do that with that Cheltenham form. We know he likes Cheltenham. Put Patrick on. Put Patrick Mullins on Jasmine DeVoe, who obviously he rode to win at Naas and the Champion Bumper. And just sit and wait and try and use your speed late on. Try and, smuggle the horse through the race. Track a load of, sit right behind 8, 9 of them. And then try and use your turn of foot if you've got anything left towards the end of the race. I don't have a strong angle into it, so Jasmine DeVoe is the only one I'm interested in at the moment. And I have had a bet on Jasmine DeVoe at 10 to 1. Gold Cup. Next couple of races I think are clear, to be honest. Gold Cup I think is won by... Why am I talking about the Gold Cup? It's not the Gold Cup yet. Mare's Chase, no interest, no angle. Don't know what I'm doing in that. Albert Bartlett. I've just mentioned Jasmine DeVoe. Then we go to the Gold Cup. Galopin Des Champs wins this. So Galopin Des Champs could go into my multiple. Yeah. Can't see past Galopin Des Champs, to be honest, over this strip. He beats Fact Far, Monty's Pass. Corbett's Crosslands further. Grey Dawning not running. Banbridge I just don't think is good enough. So Galopin Des Champs wins the Gold Cup for me. Then we move on to the Hunter Chase, and to be honest, I think there's another standout in this. It is the favourite. It is boring. But Angel's Dawn. Angel's Dawn finished second in the Kim Muir a couple of years ago behind Stumptown. When Angel's Dawn was running in that, Stumptown was running off a mark of... Let's just have a look. Stumptown was running off a mark of 135. That horse goes for the cross-country chase. And if he runs in the cross-country chase, he's going to have to run off a mark of 157. £26 higher. So we're just saying that Angel's Dawn bumped into one in the Kim Muir. Actual fact, Angel's Dawn beat Stumptown, sorry. Angel's Dawn won that, beating Stumptown, who was just ridiculously well handicapped. Last year was still bang there when falling or 2 out in a race featuring a Grade 1 horse in I Know The Way You're Thinking. Angel's Dawn, over 3 mile 2 at Cheltenham, in handicaps, has looked like a graded horse. Probably has been running to graded level class. You know, he's been running to 150s. and yet gets to return this year in a Hunter chase. Rivals this year include It's on the Line. It's on the Line's been beaten on 2 occasions in this race when he's turned up to the festival looking like he's going to win at Cheltenham. He's not good enough. He's not the graded, the 150 horse. Yeah, he loves the Fox Hunters over the national fences. He's brilliant. Yes, he's great at Punchestown. Just isn't as good at Cheltenham. And the others, unless they've got a grade 1 horse somewhere, I don't see what's going to beat Angel's Dawn. And I would have Angel's Dawn much shorter than 7-2. I would have Angel's Dawn at 6-4 favourite, to be honest. I really think that horse is that far clear. And yeah, you go, well, he's not run for a while. Under rules, last seen in December 2024 in a point-to-point, beating Ryehill, who's like 3rd or 4th favourite. And yeah, he was in command of that point-to-point at Dromahan. Angel's Dawn is probably the favourite that's the wrong price. He should be significantly shorter. And it wouldn't surprise me if he goes off. As I said, 6-4, 5-4. I think they're fairer reflections of Angel's Dawn's form at Cheltenham and chance in this race. Has he ever been to Cheltenham other than that? No, just those 2 runs. He beat the Stumptown, who is now £26 higher, and he was giving a grade 1 horse, I know the way of thinking, a great race when falling 2 out. And finally, the last race of the Cheltenham Festival is the Martin Pipe Handicap Hurdle, where we are going to talk about 3. Another quick mention of Aston Martini. Whatever race she runs in, I'm very interested. Here or the Coral Cup. The 2 runs over the correct trip. She got beat by Might Eye, who was very well handicapped at that point, and Outer Belly, who was also very well handicapped at that point. Outer Belly obviously come out again, back to Ascot and won again. Second horse I want to talk about is, we're going to go for this one, No Ordinary Joe. Comes back for this race for the third, could come back for this race for the 3rd consecutive year. Second to Iroko off 139 2 years ago, back here. And then 7th last year off 140 in a very good race. I think it was a stronger Martin Pipe last year than the year before. It's all about how strong is it this year. And I don't have this as being right up there. I think if we take out Kopek Demi and maybe Woodhoo, the others I think are standard, unexposed, but not potential graded company over fences hurdlers. So I think No Ordinary Joe will have a big chance here. Currently available at 14s, as I said, off a £1 lower mark than 2 years ago and a £2 lower mark than last year. Surely he's going to run a nice race again. And the third horse, have I mentioned them all? Oh no, the third horse I like, the Enabler. Not giving up on him. I don't seem to have him on here. There he is, the Enabler, who is actually entered in everything at the Cheltenham Festival. He's entered in the Supreme, the Turners, the Coral Cup, the County Hurdle, the Albert Bartlett and the Martin Pipe. I think the Martin Pipe is where they'll end up. And I think that for a couple of reasons. One, he has stepped up to 3 mile already. And he also was last seen winning over 2.5 when beating I Am Lorenzo and Port Julian. Last time out, ran in a very competitive handicap hurdle over 2 mile and just wasn't quick enough. Although he went forward, he couldn't keep up at the front. And I think that will hopefully push them in the direction of the Martin Pipe. You can also then put a young lad on. You could put Mr. Swan on. And I think that would be the perfect jockey booking for the Enabler. Mr. Swan has ridden the horse before, including winning at Punchestown in a bumper in November 2023. So the Enabler is definitely one I like here. So we like the Enabler at 16s. We like... Who's my number one? Aston Martini, wherever she is. Aston Martini at 33s. Non-runner, no bet. You get your money back if she doesn't get in. I do like No Ordinary Joe, but I'll probably wait to have a bet on No Ordinary Joe. But I do want to have a bet on this last one. Nurse Susan. for the Skelton team. It's very interesting that she's been given an entry in this race. Considering I do feel that Cheltenham is where they want to target, not Aintree. Her form at Cheltenham is pretty good, to be honest. She finished 4th in the Mares Novice Hurdle in 2022, beaten by Love Envoy, A Horse with No Name, and Grangie. That was a good effort. And then 2 runs ago for her, she finished. She was winning a handicap off a mark of 125. Now she gets to run here off a mark of 100. Is she 133 now? And just having a look. Yeah, 133. Now, I've always been a fan of Nurse Susan. I think she's very, very good. I think she's better than this handicap mark of 133. For me, it's all about whether she's ready. If she's ready and she's prepared, they're prepared to let her take her chance and really go for it, I think she could win. I really do. I think she's that nicely handicapped. I'll probably be backing her here and then next time as well, wherever that turns out to be. That could well be back at Cheltenham in April. There could be a race for her. But I hope she runs a nice race here, and I just feel she's a little bit too big priced. I've got her down as being a 140 horse. You can get 40s. She's rated 133. I think that'll be my 3rd in the race. Nurse Susan. Who else did I like? The Enabler and another mare in Aston Martini. And if they both don't run, or some of them don't run, then we get our money back. So they're my thoughts for Friday. Thank you for listening. I hope I've highlighted a few winners there for you over the 4 days at the Cheltenham Festival.